Good morning. On this Tuesday morning, we're really glad that you can join us again. And we just felt we wanted to acknowledge this morning that although some of the lockdown restrictions have been lifted, that things continue to be very difficult for many, whether that's having lost a loved one or concerns about health and huge job worries, and also unseen struggles that people and sufferings that people are having, and we just felt, as we've been reading the Psalms together over these last number of weeks, we've been reminded again and again of the truth that the Lord is always with us. And I just think that's again something to go back to, that He is with us through whatever we're going through today.
Yeah, and we're continuing in Proverbs, and we come to Proverbs chapter 10 this morning. And this is the point in the book of Proverbs where it moves from Proverbs that in essence are part of a narrative to standalone Proverbs. And there is some common themes that you'll see as you read through these next chapters that are picked up again and again as they are this morning. But one of the tensions that we need to hold in mind when we read Proverbs is that in many ways Proverbs are saying, look, in the main, in life, you will find that it's like this. And yet we know that life doesn't always appear that simple or straightforward, that sometimes we look at our circumstances and say, well, this doesn't look quite like this. But these Proverbs are not promises for that are simply going to unfold in our timing, right in front of our faces. We have to look at these Proverbs as working themselves out through the course of life, and especially to keep eternity in mind and God's coming day of judgment. So we're going to read this morning the middle section of chapter 10, beginning to read, I think, at verse 9. Verse 9.
9 to 20. Whoever walks in integrity walks securely, but whoever takes crooked paths will be found out. Whoever winks maliciously causes grief, and a chattering fool comes to ruin. The mouth of the righteous is a fountain of life, but the mouth of the wicked conceals violence. Hatred stirs up conflict, but love covers over all wrongs. Wisdom is found on the lips of the discerning, but a rod is for the back of one who has no sense. The wise store up knowledge, but the mouth of a fool invites ruin.
The wealth of the rich is their fortified city, but poverty is the ruin of the poor. The wages of the righteous is life, but the earnings of the wicked are sin and death. Whoever heeds discipline shows the way to life, but whoever ignores correction leads others astray. Whoever conceals hatred with lying lips and spreads slander is a fool. Sin is not ended by multiplying words, but the prudent hold their tongues. The tongue of the righteous is choice silver, but the heart of the wicked is of little value.
And of those verses, the verse that really resonated with me was verse 11. The mouth of the righteous is a fountain of life. And it reminded me of times when someone has spoken deeply refreshing or restoring words to me. And I was immediately reminded, reading this verse, of a few occasions recently, and one particular, when somebody has sent me something, and one particularly was a picture of a rose, and just a short words of encouragement, and those were the words of Fountain of Life, and little did that person know that perfect timing, and it just reminded me of the fact that we need to keep our hearts open and our ears open to the promptings of God, to be those people that have the fountain of life for others, so that we can speak into people's situations, and we just don't know, where they fall, because we're being prompted by God, and I think it's so important to take time to listen and to be prompted, and it doesn't need to be a lot, and it can be just a few words, and they can be really life-giving. And I think it just reminded me today just to have our hearts open to God.
And it's amazing how when we share something as a word of kindness like that we don't know what how God is going to use it.
No.
And it struck us when you were going to talk about the roses this morning, to have the beautiful roses behind us here, because I remember there was one day, not only this last week but a few weeks ago, where within an hour you received 2 messages, I think by text, with 2 pictures of roses from 2 independent people, wasn't it, who just wanted to send a word. So just lovely. We never know how God is going to move and prompt us, and maybe even today.
Real faith booster, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Gosh, God knows.
And the verse that, with that in mind, the verse that I was drawn to is verse 20, which where it says, "The tongue of the righteous is choice silver, but the heart of the wicked is of little value," and how it contrasts the impact that our words can have for good, and yet also the source of where actually words that are destructive come from, which is actually the source, which is the heart. And that reminded me actually of one of the key touchstone verses in Proverbs, particularly back in Proverbs 4:23, which says, "Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it." And it seems to me that we can't always know when a word is going to build someone up, or a word is spoken in kindness, or just a picture that we send to someone. But what we can do is guard our hearts, and especially against things that would be destructive thoughts and patterns and trains of thinking that just gradually over time just destroy us from the center, and therefore how we need to guard over our mind and over our heart, because everything else flows from that. And of course Jesus picks that up in Mark chapter 7 in the gospel, and talks about how it's not what goes into someone that defiles them, but what comes out from the heart. So today, as we think about you were saying, Sarah, at the beginning, how challenging life continues to be for some people, and particularly for those who've lost loved ones, and we're just conscious of how in those times just to receive words of kindness and encouragement makes such a difference. Just to know someone is there, even if they don't know quite what to say. Just a picture, and I'm thinking of you today, can make a huge difference. And so with that in mind, I don't know who God will give to each of us today to speak a word of kindness to, but let's pray.
Heavenly Father, thank you again for reminding us today that you are always with us. Lord, thank you for that truth. Help each one of us to hold on to that today. And Lord, too, we pray that you will search our hearts. Thank you that you know us. And give us that boldness to open to you today. And give us ears to hear. What do you want to tell us today? What you want to whisper into our ears, whether it's for us or whether it's for us to pass on to others. Lord Jesus, thank you that you're with us and you stand with us today. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for joining us again this morning. We've been pleased that the weather has held off the rain for a moment so that we could be outside in the garden again. And whether you're able to get outdoors today or you're staying at home, may you know God's blessing in all that you're doing.